Good morning. How dare the Australians overshadow our 10-goal win against the Hawks at the MCG yesterday? How dare they? Oh, what a night, hey. Oh, what a night. 2-0 up in the Ashes. If you love your cricket, it's an incredible series. Drama everywhere. But I'm not here to talk about the cricket, although I am fully engrossed in that at the moment, and that will continue. I was at the G yesterday, and I must say it was a very good day to be at the football. I sat at the Ponsford stand end, level one, forward pocket, right hand forward pocket. I didn't, as much as it was a really good vantage point where I didn't, and 66,000 people was a great turnout Sunday afternoon. Not great weather, really. I ended up leaving those seats at quarter time and ended up going and standing directly behind the goals at the Ponsford stand end. My view was somewhat obscured by the stands up above, but I must say I really enjoyed standing. And as much as I've been really negative of our club and our team and our coach, I left that game relatively happy with the performance, a 10-goal win. And look, I mean, let's face it, the opposition were putrid. I think the only time that the Hawks put some genuine pressure on us and took the game on was that little patch in the third quarter. And that was more, I suppose, what an AFL team and a professional team should be able to do is bring genuine effort and intensity. And they did that for 20 so minutes, and they were able to score on the back of that and put us under, a bit of pressure. And that was good to see, and to see us respond and steady and not fall away was a positive. But what that 10-goal win says to me, and the last two performances says to me, is as much as the opposition has been poor, just sort of shows me this isn't where we should be sitting on the ladder. This is not our spot. And as much as the pressure has probably come off a little bit and the shackles have been let off and we've started to play a little bit more braver football with better structure, you cannot feel the less pressure on this team, both from a mental point of view. So the expectations may have lowered over the last couple of weeks, plus the pressure on field, which enables us to execute a little bit better. It just reiterates to me that, one, we shouldn't be in this position if we are fair income. And two, there's still so much more to learn about this group this season. And those tests are going to come, and they're going to come strongly, and they're going to come as soon as this week against Fremantle on the road. And I thoroughly look forward to that. And regardless of the outcome of this year now, we're going to find a lot about this group and whether this is just a false dawn, this spike in performance, whether it's actually real, whether we actually found something, we've actually clicked. Pessimist in me says that it is a false dawn just because of the opposition has been so poor. But I want to have belief in this group. And I have seen, particularly yesterday, being there at the G yesterday, it was a lot different in regards to the way we played, particularly our synergy going from the midpoint of the ground or the back half of the ground inside forward 50. Still a little bit slow to get the ball moving from our back half. There's no doubt in my mind there's less of a focus on Harry and Charlie. And there was a part of me in that game that was saying, gee, both boys are still well below their best. And that still might be the case. Our ability to find the loose and to lower the eyes was really impressive yesterday, particularly from our skipper. I thought reshaped his game, and there were none of the bomb kicks. He lowered the eyes. He went short, but not sideways short. He was able to understand that in order for us to score, it was less about meters gained and more about putting players in a better position to then go forward. And that was really good. But I kept coming back to just how poor the Hawks were, and the pressure just wasn't there, which allowed us to do that. So I'm not getting carried away with it. Although to get the spread of goal kickers, from our mids and from our small forwards, from the likes of Martin and Cunningham who drifted forward, was impressive. And of the 17 goals we kicked, I think I only counted 3 goals from either running goals or snaps. And correct me if I'm wrong here, which sort of made it less exciting, if I'm honest. They were more, I suppose, clinical goals, set up goals, rather than goals on the back of sort of breakaway speed. So the Jack Martin snap in the first quarter, there was the Doc goal at the start of the third, which was a ripper, and then the Fogarty goal late in the game on the back of a handball by Cripps when he ran in, and I think it dribbled through. I think the rest were from marks inside 50 or free kicks. So that's 14 goals from either marks or free kicks. From set plays, they look like set plays. And I don't think we've been able to do that this year. Even in the wins early in the year, it was more on the back of kick, hope our bigs take a contested mark, and then let our smalls go to work at ground level. So that was the biggest takeaway from me. And the other takeaway from me was the evenness of contribution across the whole of the play. We got a little bit from everyone, and we got impact from everyone. And we ran the game out really well. And to kick 110 points, whatever it was in the end, 17 goals, 10 to 7 goals, 10, a 10-goal win. And it was a little bit slippery underfoot. I am taking that as a good performance team, and hopefully one that we can build on, because the tests are going to come against really good opposition, and a team I think is probably around about our mark, which is Fremantle, comes this week on the road. And I actually ideally, we would love this to be at home, but from a real development and a mental point of view, the fact that it's on the road, okay, is going to tell us a lot about this group straight away. Not another easy kill at home. So, we could have quite easily got a West Coast Eagles who we play again at Marvel Stadium. We get to play Fremantle, who had a poor loss against the Western Bulldogs by 29 points on the weekend. We get to play them on the rebound with some good solid form on our own this week, which is a perfect scenario for us. Then we get the Collingwoods, we get the Port Adelaides, we get a Melbourne, which is a great finish for the year to find out more about this team and whether the last 2 weeks have just been the fact that the pressure's come off a little bit and now the pressure's back on because there is now good sides to face. And also the pressure now that, okay, we've got to keep winning now to keep our finals hopes alive, to keep the season alive. And can this group actually handle those expectations? I think it's a perfect scenario for us as supporters. And instead of having a year now where we just sort of play the year out, there's nothing left to play for, we get to see a hell of a lot more. So I'm going to go through the players from an individual point of view, because I think from a structural point of view, our defenders set up really strongly behind the ball. I like the structure. I really do. I think sometimes we got caught out with our zone defence. I think the likes of Chincotto, Boyd and Kemp are still learning that, when to attack and when to defend. But I thought Wiedering, from my vantage point behind the goals at the Ponsford stand end, was super in his direction. Not just him, but also Newman as well. I think their direction and their voice was top class. Can we continue to roll the dice with just Wiedering as the big key and continue to go with McGovern as Kemp as that next tall? I think we can get away with it against Fremantle. Can we get away with it against a Collingwood or a Port Adelaide? Time will tell with that, because Young was played in the ruck yesterday, and I don't necessarily see him as the answer now. Yeah, that's the way I see it. Our mids were okay. I probably would have liked to have seen a little bit more of Cunningham in the middle, but I thought they worked really hard. Thought there was good spread and separation. Considering we didn't have any rucks, it was Silvani and Young. I don't think Hawthorn had any ascendancy in the middle of the ground. And I thought our ball use from our right across the board was probably the best I've seen for the whole year. But I think that was due to the lack of real pressure from Hawthorn. And our forwards just separated. They separated and they worked really hard to find the outnumber. And I like the fact that was more of a Geelong model of you don't necessarily need big bags from your key forwards. You need your big keys to be working really hard and be really selfless. And I thought particularly Harry was that. He was that yesterday. That was more like and I don't want to compare him to Tom Hawkins, but that was more like a Tom Hawkins game. It was less about goals and his impact on the scoreboard, more about goal assists. And he had a lot of goal assists yesterday. Thought it was a really selfless game by Harry yesterday. But once again, it was a makeshift Hawthorn backline. Okay, almost rudderless without James Sicily down there. Acres, 22 touches, 436 metres game. I'm not sold. I am not sold. I know he had a good game yesterday, worked really hard, kicked a nice goal from the contested mark in the goal square. I'm just not sold until I see him use the ball really well under pressure. And that's always been the question mark. So, yeah, okay, got back into a little bit of form, and it's good to see. He's a big body. He's strong. He finds it. But for me, we need our mids and we need our wingers to be using the ball really well. And he is a bandit for turning the ball over. And we've seen it time and time again. Did he necessarily do that much yesterday? Did Hawthorn really have the capabilities to hurt us on turnover? Not necessarily yesterday. So it's a tick from yesterday's game for Blake Acres. Well, but for me, the jury is well and truly still out on Blake Acres. Thought Boyd took another step in the right direction. Didn't think Hawthorn's smalls in their front half had really much impact on the game. More Bruce he had at times. I think our defenders rolled over really well. They didn't have specific matchups other than Wiedering on Lewis. I thought Boyd is taking steady steps. I think we can use him more. I really do. I think we sometimes ignore him. And if we can get the ball into his hands in more dangerous situations, and I saw at one stage there, I would have loved for him to kick that goal. I think it was in the third quarter where he was spare and he sprayed it. That's the type of, I suppose, positions on the ground I want to see more of Jordan Boyd. But you've got to be careful pressing up too high. And sometimes Hawthorn did get us out the back. They did get us out the back because our defenders pressed up really high. Chera, just having a super consistent season. Clearly leading our best and fairest. And he's now adding kicking goals to his repertoire. It's not so much about numbers with Adam Chera now. He's starting to have big impact on the game. His last fortnight against lesser opposition has been good, but we know he's stepped up against the best in the competition as well. He's been clearly our best player this year and had another fine game yesterday. Chincotta, a little bit the same as Boyd, probably not as prevalent as Boyd yesterday, but has got some genuine leg speed and does use the ball quite well. And I'm really fascinated to see how this guy's going to grow. And I know he's not young, 26 years of age, but he's young in experience. Out of contract, I think. Deserves at least another year at the football club to show his worth. I think he's making the most of his opportunities, but he's not there yet. Cripps, I thought that this was the best game I've seen him play this year. Did they have the bodies to go with him? No. Did he necessarily bully his way through that game? No. They were onto him when he was trying to break through tackles, but he did get separation. And as I mentioned before, he did lower the eyes, 28 disposals, 350 metres gained, 4 goal assists. I thought it was a really good game, a really good captain's game. And there was a plan. There was a plan to go shorter, but to get better field position and better options to move forward. It was no longer that sort of loop around and kick the ball high inside forward 50 and then allow Hawthorn's defenders to get back and intercept or to spoil. Yeah, liked it. Cunningham, yeah, a lot of people raving about his game, and I kept looking at him and thinking, shit, it's only his second game back. And I'm sort of thinking, Cunningham, I'd like to see more from him, but I think 16 disposals and 2 goals, only 147 metres gain. He had 11 handballs. I'd probably like to see him break away a little bit more, but he is so clean. He is so clean. And he does tackle well, and he was up for the fight, and I think he's been a nice inclusion over the last couple of weeks, and he's come in against weaker opposition. The test will be for him over the coming weeks. And we know that. We're not saying anything new here. with this. We know the test will come with David Cunningham and whether he can hold up or not. Charlie, yeah, made the most of his opportunity, looked dangerous, went off, subbed out, was a little bit sore, 13 disposals, set up a few goals, kicked 3 himself. I don't understand. I still don't understand the role of Ed Kerno. Played forward, wing. Understand the wing rotation is important. Isn't just an experienced body at the moment because he knows the system, knows the structure. I didn't look at his game and think, look, he did a couple of nice things, but yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily see it myself. Yeah, I still find him to be pretty slow. At this stage, a pretty average AFL footballer. Doherty worked fucking really hard, particularly in the first half on his wing. I didn't mind it. Sometimes his ball use wasn't great, but he just works exceptionally hard. I loved to see him being rewarded with that goal in the third quarter. Fogarty's a really interesting one because he is out of contract and he's been out of favour for a long time, has been injured. And there's a lot of people now sort of criticising Durden and Motlop and suddenly Fogg now is the answer. Well, he's made the most of his opportunities over the last couple of weeks. But the same applies to all these blokes who've come in. Yes, they've added something. But there's no doubt in my mind that Durden and Motlop would have probably cashed in as well on having the opportunity to play against the Gold Coast Suns and a Hawthorn, okay, at the MCG. Does that take away from how hard this bloke is working? Because you look at his 7 tackles and look at the work he's doing off the ball, and it's something that probably Motlop hasn't done. Okay, so his enthusiasm, his energy has been excellent. Is he good enough at this level? We're going to find out. We're going to find out over the next month or so whether Lockie Fogarty is good enough at this level. The jury is well and truly still out on Lockie Fogarty. But last 2 weeks, positive. Hewitt, can't really comment. Came on as a sub, picked up 6 touches, but pretty hard to assess that. Kemp, thought his defensive work was a little bit down. Fergus Green separated from him a couple of times, but he's got something about him, this guy. He's really got something about him. He dropped an easy mark. I think it was in the last quarter, but then the breakaway speed, the agility in traffic, and then to find space. And his ball use is pretty bloody good. And I think it's going to get better. I think he's been a huge positive for us. Even before the last couple of weeks, he was growing in stature. And he looks confident, and he looks the part. I still have just slight question marks on him in regards to, is he good enough to be a defender? And I think the answer is no there. But can he be, I mean, does he have to be a third tall? Is he good enough just to play as a halfback flanker, as a running halfback flanker? Has he got the mobility to do that? I think he has. I just think because of his size, I think we pigeonhole him into as this intercept defender. I still think he can do that. Like his game again, but defensively at times just a little bit off. Kennedy, workmanlike, nothing special. Played a role, nothing special. Still down on a little bit of form. Jack Martin, I think 3 goals from a hybrid forward is exactly what we need and is exactly what probably Jack Silvani hasn't offered for us. But, I'm going to be honest here. I could have kicked 3 goals against Hawthorn yesterday. Okay? I could have kicked 3 goals against Hawthorn yesterday. Found space, was pretty clinical in front of the sticks, 12 disposals, 3 tackles, worked pretty hard. Big tests ahead. McGovern, good again. Thought he was solid. You know, there wasn't a lot to beat Hawthorn just went really in with the one tall, so he got to play that role, that intercept role, 5 marks, 20 disposals. It was another solid performance from Mitch McGovern, set up really well behind the ball. Really liked Harry's game, as I mentioned before. 19 disposals. That got under the guard a little bit. I didn't realise he picked that much of the ball up. 8 marks, worked really hard up the ground, and had terrific pace. Terrific pace. It was just that one kick around the body, which was frustrating, and I'm not sure what's going on there. I think we all know what's going on. But he looked really engaged in the contest, and I actually think he worked harder than Charlie, if I'm brutally honest. At one stage here in the first half, I was thinking, geez, Harry's down, but he really worked into the game, and some of his ball use going inside forward 50 to hit up was just excellent. He didn't blaze away, he hit up. Really good, really good. Nick Newman, thought he did a really good job on Bruce. Bruce got away a couple of times and looked like he could really, not so much change the game for Hawthorn, but started to get a little bit more supply and get their game going in that third quarter. He was the one that looked like he might get off the chain, but I thought Newman was excellent behind the ball. Owies, did what he had to do, worked pretty hard. I'm not sold on Matthew Owies. I know he's a hard worker, but I'm still not sold. I just think he's a class below, and I know you need your hard workers. You maybe need that small forward who's a hard worker. I'm just not there with him. Just not yet. Sard 24. I think Sard, look, I still think he's down a little bit. 35 metres gained, 24 disposals. It's a good game. Didn't have a hell of a lot to do, really, when you think about it, Adam Sard. But I just think he's a little bit down on impact still. But I think we're getting a little bit more spread from our defenders now, a little bit more run from the likes of Boyd and Kemp and Chincotta. That's probably a good sign for us, rather than just having Adam Sard dominate games. And you look back through these sort of reviews, and you are always saying, Sard was unbelievable. But now you're actually saying, look, Sard was okay, but shit, Boyd did a bit, Kemp did a bit, Chincotta did a bit, Newman did a bit. I think you'd rather be in that situation. That's more of a Collingwood model when you look at the likes of Noble, Quainer. You get those variety of guys who can run, who can be dangerous, rather than just relying on, say, a Braden Maynard, the same old bloke doing the same old things week in, week out. And we don't want to be a star-based team, do we? We talk about our stars all the time. We need them. We need them to be playing good football. But we need the even contribution. I thought Jack Silvani was super yesterday, and I'm one of his bigger critics. But he was better than Young in the ruck, and he was good around the ground. I really liked his game. I really did. But who knows? You just don't know. That model of Silvani and Young, that's not going to be the ruck. It's just not going to happen. So Pitnet and TDK are fit. Silvani doesn't play. So what's that look like moving forward? Because Martin has now established himself, you would have thought, as that hybrid forward. So you bring Silvani in, if TDK and Pitnet are available, it's almost like you can't play Jack. That's the way I see it. But as far as a role went yesterday, he was good. His effort was superb. His fucking backside off. Walsh, good. Just similar to Cripper, actually. Lowered the eyes, found separation, didn't get a mountain of the pill. Probably would have liked to have seen him kick the ball more than the 10 kicks and 15 handballs, but he was good. Worked his ass off like he usually did. I love Jacob Wiederin's game. I think he's the one that's really steeled himself over the last 5 to 6 weeks. Was really down, but even in that tough patch where it started to get really, really tough, against the Bombers and the Swans. He was the one. He was the constant in that period of time. And I watched him very closely yesterday. Um, he wasn't like he was bullying the opposition, but he was, like he should be. He's vice captain of the football club, and he's the general. And he was savage at times on, I think Lewis got an uncontested mark in the last quarter, and Lewis got that goal over the top. He was savage, okay, with players up the ground and on his fellow defenders. Yeah. And the other one was Lewis Young. And I mean, he's picked up 13 disposals, took some marks around the ground, 14 hit outs up against some absolute man mountains. And look, worst comes to worst, he comes in and plays that role at the moment, but he's essentially a key position player, isn't he? And he's been dreadfully out of form. And will he come back in if we need him as that extra tool in our back half? And how does that reshape things? Anyway, guys, that's enough from me. I look forward to doing the preview of the Fremantle game, and I'm thoroughly looking forward to that game now to see whether this vein of form can be translated against better opposition this week on the road, and if so, can it be translated when it goes to another level after that? Speak soon.